Well, a number of people have asked me, what the heck am I making? And I think what I'm going to do is take you back to 20 years. I've been making this little dapping block for about 20 years now. And I've been selling it over eBay and a couple of jewelry wholesale places. And it's not a pet rock by any means, but it's a nice little seller, and they're reasonably profitable. So I keep making them, and at one point I made these little dome-shaped pieces to fit inside of there. This one doesn't fit that, but at one point I made them. But this little plastic piece was so toxic that I just had to stop. And since then, I've had people over the years ask, geez, could you make a positive part for this little piece here so that when I could put it in a punch press and just press one time and get the shape. And I've always wanted to, but I never was able to because you got to make this one particular tool. And so once I decided, well, actually what happened is this guy here, and you can kind of see, I'm going to just open up the lathe here. This guy called me about 2 weeks ago, and he says, hey, I really want a big one of these, and can you make me one? And I said, yes, in fact I can, because I have this monstrosity right here. That actually, and you can kind of see, it actually creates the radius by pivoting on this single 7/8 shaft. Now I set it up with a little power unit and gears and all of that stuff so that I don't have to, sit there and do it by hand. And so he also, at the same time, he said, but I want the positive for this. And I said, well, okay, I can do that. And so that inspired me to make the next piece. So if you put this in the lathe, it would create this curve. Now this unit here, if I just pulled that tool bit in a ways, this would make a much smaller arch. And the same goes with the other piece. If I just move the tool bit, that would make a smaller or a larger arch. And that was my main intent, was I wanted it to be big enough that I could make a 10-inch dome. So there we go. We'll pick it up when I take this unit off and put the other one on the lathe, and you'll be able to kind of see that. Okay, I thought what I'd do is give you a bird's eye view of what's going on here. I'm making this radius cutter. Basically what I'm going to do is, if you'll look at this piece here, you'll see it's kind of a mushroom shape. Now imagine turning it around and cutting the other side, the other surface, so that it has this kind of, a very accurate dome. And in order to do that, I've got to create something to come around and cut that radius. And which means that, I don't know if you can see it from here, but we'll lift this up. It weighs about 80 pounds. Basically, this little plug here is going to go inside of there, and this will spin on this piece here. And you can kind of see that it's all set up to do that. Now, last couple days I've worked on this particular piece, last 2 days solid. And you can see that this is center ground, and that's a finished grind too. And those two surfaces are exactly parallel with each other, so that when this thing rotates, it has a clamp that holds it, and it'll rotate nice and smoothly. Here, I'll bring it in close, and you can see the surface. It has a really nice finish on it. And then the bottom one too. And basically the surface is just going to hit just on this part here so that it doesn't have too much drag when I'm turning it. So I had to create this whole other tool. And this part here, and you can kind of see the cutting head isn't in place yet, but you can see that if I slide this way back, I'll get a really good sized radius out of it to cut. And so if I was to cut something like this, I would shave off this outside edge and get a real accurate surface. And do the exact size of the cup in the reverse, so that when he did press it, metal in between them, he would get a nice form, rather than if the sizing isn't quite right, the form comes out a little odd. So I'm still in process. I have the tool bit still to put in. And once I get that in, then I'll be able to do this by hand and do his project. Now, of course, I've been meaning to make this tool for the last couple of years, ever since I made the other one, and haven't been able to get around to it until I got this order, which kind of instigated my working on this tool for the last, what has it been, a week now? So, that pretty much is the story. We just got finished cutting that piece I talked about yesterday, which looked like a mushroom, and of course I didn't actually show you it in perspective, but it does kind of look like a mushroom if you can see it from there. But what I've done is I cut these couple of grooves out of it, and what we're going to do with these couple of grooves is this tool is going to fit right inside of there and slide back and forth, as in the drawing. You'll see that in a second. And then, of course, this tool, this part of the tool, and it will rotate around, as in the drawing, which you've seen. And then this piece goes on top of here, like that. The whole thing sits on top of the lathe, and then a cutting head, and this isn't done yet, of course, a cutting head will cut that radius that we were talking about. So, more to do. Oh, by the way, we got about 6 inches of snow last night, so I'm freezing my little butt off. All right, we've got the tool bit, or the tool holder, milled and machined, and the only way I could figure out how to machine the surface, because there was no way of holding the whole surface to get it to get one cut on it, was to put it back on the lathe and true up the two sides with the lathe. Okay, and then so now we're going to try it out on the rotating head and see if it fits, and it better fit. Ah, look at that, it fits. So this is going to slide back and forth. Now, not sliding real well, but we'll get that worked out. This will slide back and forth. The tool bit, which will look something like this, except probably much bigger, is going to sit right there. On top of that, which will be exactly centered with the lathe body. And then, of course, all of this sits on the original plate that I did here the other day. Now, something really cool just came up. And I'm thinking, okay, I really need to mechanize this so that I get a real clean cut when I do that radius. Otherwise, you end up with, if you just do it by hand, you end up with this kind of jerky motion going around the radius, and you don't get this real nice finish that I'm looking for. And so I was looking around, and I found this old gear And I went, wow, that could really work, but how could I get it? So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the spider out of the center of the gear. I'm going to cut this piece down. Let me take this out. Cut this piece down, or cut this piece down to fit the inside edge of this, you know, so that I get a good press fit, and then put this right from about here down, and then I can come in with a small servo motor with a gear on it that would rotate this thing at like, oh, you know, I want to take like 2 minutes to get all the way around the circle. So that servo motor is going to be traveling real slow. And let's see, anything else that's come up? This sounds really cool. Now, of course, I don't have the matching gear, which is going to probably be about this big, nor do I have the motor. But you know, that's part of the fun of you know, doing these experimentations, is trying to find all the components that are going to work. So next, I go in and go ahead. And as you see, I put a bunch of set screws in there so that I could do this and tighten it. Now, next thing I do is, because if I tighten the set screw down on the steel of the holder, then it'll put a little dimple in that, and then this thing won't slide back and forth very easily. So what I have to do is put a small groove right in the center of this so that the set screw can screw into that groove, and it can mess up the groove, and still this thing will slide back and forth without too much problem. Okay, hey. And the snow's melting. It's actually a little bit warmer today, so I'm not quite as cold. And as you can see, I'm like, you know, this Pillsbury doughboy here. I've got jackets and down vests and long johns, and my God, I got layer after layer after layer. But man, I'm having a good time. Okay, we did yesterday. I overdid it. I went too far. I was tired. All of the excuses. I did the classic no-no. The old high school, or not high school, maybe even grammar school adage of, what do you do when you have an unstoppable force and an immovable object? What happens? Well, it happened. So I was tapping this hole on the headpiece, which is the mushroom sort of piece, and I had the big tap here, and it was resting up against the lathe, and I went too far, and I bottomed out the tap and broke off that tip. You can kind of see it there. There's nothing left of that tap. And the biggest problem is the rest of the tap is inside of the hole, and it's bottomed out, which means it's super tight. Now this morning I came in and I took a couple of drill bits, hoping that I could get those in there, and you can see they fit. Oh, wait a second here. You can see they fit, and then I was hoping to just be able to twist it out that way. Well, I broke off the drill bit trying to do that. But hey, I'm not done. I still got more tricks. So I'm going to come in now with a piece of steel, and then I'm going to weld the tap to the piece of steel with my MIG welder. And that should be able to give me enough strength to unwind that tap. I mean, the hole's all done. Everything's ready to go. The entire piece is ready, totally ready, except the tap's broken off. So there goes the next part. Okay, it's about an hour and a half later. I tried 3 or 4 directions. None of them would work. And finally, I had this drill rod, which is a pretty hard steel, and I cut little sections of it out, as you can see underneath the crescent wrench there. And 4 or 5 tries, and finally, this thing broke loose. And it's been pretty much of a struggle to get it to come out, but at least it's coming. You can kind of see it turn there. So basically at this point I'm almost there. I got, just a little bit of more pulling. I still got another inch of tap in there, but yay, it worked. Okay, I think we're pretty well, we got the thing working. I mean, it's certainly not done because there's all kinds of little kinks to work out. But it is functioning and it is turning the radius. And you can see that the rotation here will go ahead and cut that. And amazingly, it cuts better than I thought it would do. I'm pretty happy about that. Now, the one thing is that this plate here is a little bit high, and it almost, well, in fact, it's touching the chuck at this point. So I got to take a little bit off of there, and I got to fix the bolt here and change the bit so that I can get all the way over, and then also drop a little bit of height off of the tool post. But other than that, it's working pretty well. I think by the end of the day I'll be able to start cutting more of this radius. And what I want to do is I want to get the point of the tool bit right on top of that, and it will cut this perfect radius that will fit the other dapping block, the female part of it. And then that'll be it. So turns out this tool will handle 7 inches of material, 7 inches and down. So I can make a little one about that big, or I can make up to 7 inches. So that's not too bad. I was hoping for 12, but the lathe is just not tall enough to do that. And so, hey, what do you do? So, we're going to take this thing back apart about the 45th time and fix those couple of things that are on there and that we need to do, and then put it back together again and get it to work. This is Nick Collier, signing out for now. Okay, it's about a day and a half later, and I got the thing to work, and it works a lot better than I thought. And we've trimmed it back to almost the last cut. You can kind of see. Maybe I'll bring the camera in a little closer in a second. But you can see that we've got the round, and now I got to come back in and do a final cut that's hopefully, cross my fingers, a smooth cut. I had to go in and trim out a bunch of stuff, and of course we got a bunch of scrap metal here because there's a lot of missing metal, but I'm pretty happy with it, and I think tomorrow morning I'll do a last 1 or 2 final cuts, and we're ready to go. Okay, we're at the tail end of this dapping, this extra large dapping block project, and the customer wanted a 7-inch radius, well actually 3.5-inch radius, but 7-inch cup. And so as I said earlier, this tool was to do the radius of the front part of the cup, or the positive, or the male end, kind of a stubby male, but we're talking metal here. You can kind of see that we got a fairly decent finish on that and a good fit. And then the other one did the female end, which would be that one, which weighs again 50, 60 pounds. And so the male fits in the female. You put a piece of metal in between, and then you put it in the punch press, and you put pressure on it, and it forms the metal into a nice cup. And that was his intent, and that certainly is my intent. And so these two fit together, and I put a little piece of paper in between to protect it in shipping. I think he's in Tennessee or something like that. Kind of cool. So This tool's not done, but it's getting closer, and I was able to kind of fake it through with enough of this tool finished to get this one done. And now I'll go back in when I take a little break and finish the tool up, put a couple extra clamps on, get this part tightened up just a little bit. It had just a bit of chatter to it, so which means that it wiggles back and forth a little bit. And just a couple of adjustments here and there, and the tool is ready to go. I may put some gearing on it and a little automated thing on it, but I'm not sure just now, because this thing cuts so well by hand, just by me pulling on it by hand, that I'm not sure that I need to do that. So hey, we'll see how it unravels as I get into other projects. Maybe as I get through smaller ones, I may have to be a little more accurate. So we cut some pieces of wood, protect the block, and put this whole thing, which weighs probably about 90 pounds, in a large flat rate box, which I get to send for $16, which is like a deal and a half if you consider that. And I do, because if I had to put it in a regular box, it'd probably be about $50 to send it. So there we go. This is Nick Collier. Here. We are at the done stage of making the radius tool, which has turned out to be pretty cool. And I don't know if you can see it, but I put a little grease fitting right in here so that the whole thing can get greased all at once. And that makes it a lot easier to handle. Otherwise, I got to take it apart each time. And so this goes on the lathe, and you saw that the other day, and then this rotates around. In fact, I've got another job to use this thing, and the next couple of days, maybe what I'll do is set it up and give you a little video of it. Oh, I like this thing so much, and I think I did such a great job, and it's so beautiful that I wanted to kind of store it in a really good place. That way, otherwise it'll just get rusty and kind of crappy looking. So I built this little box for it, and I think that's going to be just about right, and it'll keep the moisture away from it. Now the problem is getting it in the box, and I just don't know if I can do it, because this thing weighs a ton. So let's see if we can slide it in. Look at that, goes right in, no sweat. Lift this up. Goes right in, but it's a little tall. Ah! Can you imagine? Miscalculated. But I think it'll be fine. Ah! There it goes. No, it dropped down. There we go. Yeah, beautiful. Perfect. Okay, so now that goes in the box. We put the lid on the box. Where is that lid? Oh, here it is. And then at some point I'm going to build some handles for it so I can grab onto it and pack it around. And that'll be about it.